Most of us pictured motherhood like this. We connected, joyful, but for many moms, it feels so much heavier than it should. And I don't believe it's because children are harder. I believe it's because we've lowered biblical standards and we've really just compromised our biblical convictions to what psychology has called normal. I think one of the biggest reasons motherhood feels so heavy and hard right now is because honestly, our expectations are just too low. We buy into these like modern parenting psychology, which is really built around avoiding discomfort at all costs, which is not biblical. A lot of these standards, they really want to avoid tears and frustration, and I think that's why they become so popular, because parents feel like that's the loving thing to do. And we need to really change the narrative of what these parenting trends have called normal and even good or healthy, because many times they are contrary to scripture, which makes them actually toxic, because the standard is Christ. The ways of Christ have always looked different than the world. Yes, his grace and his life and his freedom, they're all free, but you know what it costs us? Everything. It's our life for his life. Honestly, when these kind of expectations are so low, no one grows. And in turn, we stop expecting obedience. We stop training for self-control and responsibility. And I think one thing that you can do practically just to walk away with this is find one area that maybe you've lowered your standards. Maybe your obedience, maybe follow through, something, and make it clear. You know, I even have a whole obedience reset video. I can post it right above here that you can go watch. So part 2, compromising our convictions. So I believe this is raising a really passive and weak generation, because you know that there's that quote, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And so we need to raise our children with the standard of truth, and biblical value and conviction must reign in our home if we want our children to stand in the midst of pressure, because scripture doesn't raise passive people. Another reason that motherhood feels so heavy is because moms do so much, and in doing so much, we end up trying to do everything by ourselves, and it's just not healthy, and it's also not realistic. And I do believe in servant leadership. I do believe that the greatest leaders should be the greatest servants. However, I also know that that doesn't mean you're doing everything. And so the best example I thought of this morning was thinking about like a boss or a pastor. I don't see my pastor coming in and leading worship and then doing a sermon and then staying after church and then greeting people before and after and then cleaning the toilets and cleaning the church and then also collecting the tithe, because what that does is it robs the rest of the people from partaking and participating and being a body. And motherhood should be the same way. We should be able to train our children to function as a family. You know, we are all born orphans, and we actually have to learn how to be a family member, which is kind of crazy because you would think it'd be natural. And so anyways, when a mom is constantly rescuing, children are not learning that kind of responsibility. You know, work feels like punishment. Mom gets burnt out, ends up doing everything by herself. And again, I have another video. I've been in this series of kind of unintentionally doing like a rhythms and systems and routines videos. And so I'll post these videos that I mentioned, but I felt like today I wanted to more so talk about the mindset, because that's really powerful to have if you're going to follow through with these kind of systems and routines. And so a good practical takeaway is, can you ask yourself, you know, what am I rescuing my child from that I should be training them through? And I think one of the easiest ones, especially for a mom of littles, is their chores. You know, we can ask our child to sweep the floors, and because he doesn't do a very good job, we'll go behind him and sweep for him. And what that does is it causes you to double up on your chores next time. And instead of having your child redo it, showing him how so that he can become an expert. And honestly, that one mindset shift can truly lighten your load. And all right, we are almost done. Part 4, I love this scripture. I'll post it here, but it says, without vision, people perish. Sometimes motherhood can feel really pointless to some moms, or it can feel like you're just doing chores, or it's just kind of like a pause into like the real call of your life. But the reality is that motherhood is an actual calling. And it's really wild when you think about it. Like, think about even like fast food workers. Think about going to work. You literally spend hours training and learning the job, or in, you know, being a teacher, being a doctor. I mean, anything that you're doing that's like your career, you're training. But when it comes to being a wife or a mom, it's like you just kind of wing it. That creates just a lot of unhealthy mindsets. So anyways, all that to say, got a little chatty. Without direction, things just feel kind of like reactive. But motherhood is really like formative work. Like, you're actually creating substance inside of them. You're forming their souls. And when you allow that vision to return, or even if you've never had it, to allow it to come into your home, you will find supernatural grace and endurance, because every day feels so purposeful, even in the mundane things, because you truly treat it as discipleship. And in regard to your home, like I talk a lot about this, about your home is discipleship material. Like it's a mission field, it's a training ground. So every single mundane opportunity, even something like folding laundry or taking baths, those can be moments of discipleship where you're teaching your children the gospel. And so anyways, if you want to know like a little bit more structure in regard to this, or maybe just wanting to know like the exact standards to set or the rhythms to build or words to use, I have an entire guide that I just released this month. It's on sale for this month only, called Raising Little Disciples, and I'll post it in the link below so you can grab it while you can. But anyways, last but not least, part 6, reframing our mindsets. If you don't have systems in place, you will have a really hard time, because you will just be doing things emotionally. You know, you won't really know what's clear and what's not, instead of like really just understanding what to do structurally. So a lot of women feel like they have anger problems or patience problems, but the reality is that yes, obviously we all need to grow, but you need more strategies, you need more rhythms, more systems, you need standards that have biblical clarity and restored authority, and honestly just a vision for discipleship. And so much of my guide talks about this. So all this to sum it up, motherhood won't get lighter by lowering the standard, it'll get lighter when order is restored. And again, that just begins with our convictions, our values, and not with trying harder or being better or doing things out of guilt. So if any of this was helpful, please give it a thumbs up, or let me know in the comments below if you have tried any of my rhythms or resets that I've mentioned in the previous videos. I'd love to hear your feedback. Seriously, y'all, I'm loving this so much. Otherwise, here's some videos you can check out that I mentioned throughout this video, and until next time, I'll see you later. Bye.